Nina said, holding her pregnant stomach as Stella beat her up. Immediately, Nina picked up a rock from the ground and Nina looked in shock at what she had done, and she remembered how all of this torment started. It started one Saturday afternoon in her boarding school hostel. Nina sat quietly on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling as she whispered to her best friend, Amanda. "I'm pregnant," Nina said, her voice barely above a whisper. Amanda blinked, stunned. "What? No way, Nina. You can't be serious." Nina sighed and grabbed Amanda's arm. "Come with me, I'll show you." She led Amanda to the backyard of their boarding school, where an old tree stood tall. Underneath its branches, Nina pulled up her oversized sweater, revealing her rounded stomach. Amanda gasped. "Oh my God, Nina. How did this happen? Who's the father?" Nina shook her head, her eyes filled with fear. "I don't know, Amanda. I just found myself pregnant." Can you believe what Nina is going through? If you've ever had a shocking secret, hit the like button. Amanda's mind raced. "This is serious, Nina. We have to do something." She paused for a moment, then added, "What about Ella? She knows how to help with things like this." "Ella?" Nina asked, her eyebrows furrowing. "Yes," Amanda said quickly. "She collects herbs. Some girls say she can make pregnancies go away." But Nina's face hardened. "No, Amanda. I don't think I should. Something inside me is telling me not to end it." "What would you do if you were Nina? Would you keep the baby or try to find help? Let us know in the comments below." Amanda sighed, feeling the weight of Nina's secret on her shoulders. "Fine, I won't push you. But please, promise me you'll be careful. And whatever happens, I won't tell anyone." Nina looked at Amanda with relief. "Thank you, Amanda. You're the only one I can trust." That night, Amanda was hanging around the school courtyard when she saw the popular girls huddled together, giggling. They were led by Stella, the most popular girl in school. Amanda had always wanted to be part of their group, to feel accepted by them. Before she knew it, Amanda found herself walking towards them. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, trying to sound casual. One of the girls turned to her with a smirk. "What's new with you, Amanda? You look like you've got something to say." Amanda hesitated for a moment. Could she? If you had a chance to join the popular group by sharing a secret, would you do it? Tell us in the comments. That night, under the cover of darkness, Stella and her friends, Mary, Cynthia, and Kelly, crept up to Nina's dorm. They found her sitting on her bed, deep in thought. Stella smirked, leaning against the doorframe. "Nina, is it true? Are you really pregnant?" Nina felt her heart race. She knew the question was coming, but still, it made her nervous. She took a deep breath and answered quietly, "Yes, it's true." Cynthia raised an eyebrow. "Who's the father then?" Nina shook her head, her voice trembling. "I don't know. One day, I just found myself like this, my stomach just swelled up." The room went silent for a second, but then, wicked laughter filled the air. Mary pointed at her, barely able to contain her laughter. "You found yourself pregnant. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Kelly snickered. "Maybe she thinks babies come from the air. If someone made fun of you like this, how would you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments below." The next day, during break, Nina found Amanda in class. Her eyes were filled with hurt. "Amanda, why did you tell them? I thought we were friends." Amanda looked down, ashamed. "I'm sorry, Nina. I just wanted to join Stella's group. I didn't mean to hurt you." Nina's heart sank as she felt the sting of betrayal. You told my secret just to be popular. She turned and walked away, tears brimming in her eyes. She never thought Amanda would betray her like this. In class the next day, the teacher was lecturing about irresponsible behavior. Stella, sitting smugly at the front of the room, raised her hand with a mischievous grin. "Sir, why don't you ask Nina why she's always wearing that big sweater, even when it's hot?" The teacher glanced over at Nina. "Nina, is there a reason you're wearing a sweater? It's quite warm today." Nina quickly made up an excuse. I'm feeling cold, sir." Stella giggled and leaned over to whisper loudly, "Maybe because pregnant people get cold easily." The teacher, oblivious to the hidden meaning, nodded. "Yes, that can happen sometimes." Nina's stomach twisted, knowing exactly what Stella meant. She kept her face blank, pretending to be confused, though inside, she was panicking. Would you be able to keep calm like Nina, or would you confront Stella? Tell us what you'd do. That night, Nina was seated at her desk, trying to focus on her homework when Stella appeared out of nowhere, dropping a stack of books on Nina's desk. "What are these?" Nina asked, confused. Stella crossed her arms, smirking. "Those are my homework assignments. You do them for me." Nina's heart sank. "Why should I?" Stella leaned in close, her voice dripping with threat. "Because if you don't, I'll tell the entire school about your little secret." Nina stared at the books, feeling trapped. She loved her education too much to risk losing it, but now, Stella was using her secret as a weapon. She had no choice but to do the work. When lunchtime came, Nina sat alone, eating quietly, when Stella approached with her tray. "Nina, give me your food," she demanded. Nina shook her head. "No, Stella, I'm hungry." Stella leaned down and whispered menacingly, "If you don't, I'll tell everyone you're pregnant. I'll make sure the whole school knows." Nina, terrified, pushed her plate toward Stella. She watched helplessly as Stella took her food and walked away laughing. That night, Nina lay in bed, her stomach growling from hunger. She was too afraid to fight back. If you were Nina, would you stand up to Stella or stay quiet to protect your secret? Let us know in the comments. The next day, Stella took things further. During class, she started singing loudly, making sure everyone heard her. "I go to school to read my books, we go to school to look pretty. But an ugly girl goes to school to get pregnant." Nina tried her best to ignore the song, her face burning with embarrassment. She clenched her fist under the desk, willing herself not to react. If she did, her secret would be exposed to everyone. But Stella wasn't done. She started another song, this time getting the whole class involved. "What's in your stomach?" she sang, as each student answered with the last thing they ate. When it was Nina's turn, Stella grinned wickedly. "Nina, what's in your stomach?" Nina forced a smile and answered calmly, "Egg." The whole class laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Stella wasn't finished. She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. Was the egg fertilized? Nina's heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her face blank, pretending not to understand the cruel joke. She forced another smile and turned away, trying to focus on anything but the humiliation burning inside her. Have you ever been teased like Nina? How did you handle it? Share your story with us. Before we continue, please subscribe and like this video to support our new channel. Help us reach our small goal of 100 subscribers or more, thank you. Now back to the video. The next afternoon, Stella found Nina sitting alone under a tree, trying to read. She walked up to her with that usual smirk on her face. "Nina, climb that tree and pluck a fruit for me," Stella demanded, pointing at the tree above them. Nina looked up at the tall branches and shook her head. "No, Stella. I won't do it. In an instant, Stella's face twisted in anger. Without warning, she started hitting Nina, her fist landing hard and fast. The spot was secluded, hidden from the rest of the school, and Nina's cries for help were swallowed by the thick silence of the trees. Why are you doing this? Nina gasped between sobs. Stella sneered, her eyes flashing with jealousy. Because, Nina, you're prettier than me. You always have been, and I hate it. Nina's mind raced. She couldn't take the beating anymore, so in desperation, she grabbed a rock from the ground. Without thinking, she swung it, hitting Stella square on the head. Stella's body went limp and collapsed at Nina's feet. Nina's heart stopped. Had she just killed her? Panicking, Nina looked around. No one was in sight. She grabbed Stella by the arms and dragged her into the nearby bushes, hiding her beneath the tree. With trembling hands, she buried Stella under a pile of dirt and leaves, trying to cover up the horror she had just caused. Just as Nina stepped back, trying to catch her breath, she heard something, a noise coming from under the dirt. It was Stella. She was alive, struggling to wake up, her hands scratching at the earth. Nina froze in terror. If Stella got out, she would expose everything, and Nina knew her life would be over. Desperate, she ran back and started jumping on the spot where Stella was buried, pressing down hard until the noise stopped. Breathing heavily, Nina stepped back, shaking. But when she turned around, she saw a small figure standing at the edge of the clearing. It was Amoka, a young junior, staring wide-eyed at what she had just witnessed. Nina's heart pounded in her chest as she walked slowly toward Amoka. She leaned in close and whispered, "If you tell anyone what you just saw, I'll do the same to you. You'll be buried like Stella." Amoka's face paled, and she nodded quickly, fear written all over her. Nina felt a cold shiver run through her. How had things gotten this bad? What would you do if you were Nina? Would you have handled the situation differently? Let us know in the comments. The next day, whispers filled the school halls. People were starting to notice Stella's absence. "Has anyone seen Stella?" a few girls asked, their voices filled with concern. Nina's heart raced with every question. As the clouds darkened and rain began to pour, the students were ordered inside. But Nina's mind was elsewhere. She realized with horror that the rain might wash away the dirt covering Stella's grave, revealing the body. Ignoring the downpour, Nina grabbed her sweater and ran back to the tree. When she got there, her worst fear had come true. The grave had been dug up. The dirt was disturbed, the pile broken apart. Nina's mind raced. Someone had found the body. Who could it have been? Nina started to panic. If they discovered Stella's body, it would only be a matter of time before they came for her. She had to leave the school and fast. As she turned to head back, her eyes caught something in the mud, footsteps. They were leading away from the grave. Nina followed the trail, her heart pounding as the rain continued to fall heavily. She could barely see through the downpour, but then, she spotted something, someone. It was Stella, staggering through the mud, drenched and dirty, but alive. She had dug herself out and was heading back toward the school. Nina froze. She knew that if Stella made it back, she'd tell everyone what had happened. Her secret would be out. Nina couldn't let that happen. She walked quickly towards Stella, her heart racing faster with every step. Stella turned around, her face pale and bruised. When she saw Nina approaching, she opened her mouth to scream, but the rain was so loud, it drowned out the sound. Nina grabbed Stella, who was too weak to fight back, and dragged her through the mud to a large pit nearby. It had once been used as a drainage ditch but had long been abandoned. Without thinking, Nina pushed Stella into the pit, her body tumbling down into the darkness below. For a moment, everything was still. Nina stood at the edge of the pit, looking down, her hands shaking. What had she done? If you were in Nina's shoes, what would you do next? Would you run or try to cover your tracks? Tell us your thoughts below. The next morning, Nina sat in her room, anxiety eating away at her. She knew she had to act quickly before the questions about Stella grew louder. Grabbing a piece of paper, she started writing a letter, pretending it was from Stella. I've left school to be with my boyfriend. Don't come looking for me, I'm happy where I am. Nina read over the letter, making sure it sounded convincing. She needed someone else to plant it. Someone who wouldn't dare defy her. That's when she thought of Amoka, the young junior who knew her deadly secret. Later that day, Nina cornered Amoka. Take this letter and put it in Mary's bag, Nina whispered coldly. If you don't, you'll end up like Stella. Amoka's face paled as she nodded, terrified of what might happen if she disobeyed. What would you do if you were Amoka? Would you risk your life or follow Nina's orders? Share your thoughts in the comments. Amoka, trembling, made her way into the empty classroom. She found Mary's bag on her desk, and with shaking hands, slipped the letter inside. Just as she turned to leave, the door creaked open. It was Mary. What are you doing here, Amoka? Mary asked, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. Amoka swallowed hard, her mind racing for an excuse. I was looking for our teacher, she stammered. Mary stared at her for a moment, then shrugged, telling her to leave the classroom. Amoka quickly left, her heart pounding in her chest. Later that day, Mary found the letter in her bag and gasped in shock. She ran straight to the teachers, exclaiming that Stella had run away. Everyone was stunned, and the security team decided to investigate further. But something didn't sit right with Mary. Do you think Mary will figure out the truth? If you found such a letter, would you believe it right away? Let us know below. As Mary thought about the letter, she realized something was off. There was no signature. Stella always drew a little heart next to her name in her letters, and this one didn't have it. Suspicious, Mary decided to confront Amoka. Mary pulled Amoka aside during lunch, taking her to a quiet corner. What were you really doing in the classroom earlier? She asked sternly. Tell me the truth. Amoka froze, knowing she couldn't lie anymore. Okay, she whispered, her voice trembling. Nina made me do it. She told me to put the letter in your bag, or she'd kill me like she killed Stella. Mary's eyes widened in shock. Where is Stella? She demanded. Amoka hesitated before finally leading Mary to the tree where she saw Nina bury Stella. But when they got there, the rain had washed away the burial spot, covering it with fresh mud. They tried digging, but found nothing. Amoka's fear of Nina grew stronger, and she decided to lie again. I was just joking. There's nobody. I made it all up. Mary's face twisted in anger. If this is a joke, get out of my sight, she snapped. Amoka quickly ran off, leaving Mary frustrated and confused. What do you think is really going through Amoka's mind? Would you have confessed the truth, or kept lying to stay safe? Tell us what you would have done. As Amoka fled the scene, she bumped into Nina on her way back to class. Nina's eyes narrowed. Where have you been? She asked, her voice cold and suspicious. Amoka, too scared to lie again, told Nina everything about showing Mary the spot. But we didn't find anything, so I told her it was a joke. She didn't believe me, though, Amoka confessed, trembling. Nina's heart raced. Things were falling apart faster than she had planned. That night, Mary went to bed early, her mind swirling with confusion and doubt. But in her dreams, she saw something terrifying. Stella was in a deep pit, crying for help, her voice weak and desperate. Mary woke up in a cold sweat. She couldn't shake the dream. What if it wasn't just a nightmare? Grabbing her flashlight, she decided to go back to the place in the forest, just to be sure. Under the cover of darkness, Mary made her way through the trees, the air cold and thick with tension. She reached the pit and began calling out. "Stella! Stella, are you there?" she yelled, her voice trembling. At first, there was silence, but then, faintly, she heard it. "Mary, help me." Mary's heart raced as she heard Stella's voice from below. "How did you end up here?" she shouted down. Stella's voice was weak, but clear. "Nina. Nina threw me in here. She hasn't fed me. Please, get help." Mary's hands shook as she stood up, ready to rush and call security. But just as she turned, she froze in terror. Nina was standing behind her, her face cold and menacing. Before Mary could react, Nina shoved her into the pit, her scream echoing through the night as she fell. Do you think Nina will get away with this? How far do you think she's willing to go? Share your predictions below. Without looking back, Nina walked away from the pit, her heart pounding. As she crept back into the hostel, she crawled into bed, her mind filled with the chaos she had caused. Everything was unraveling, and deep down, she knew it. What do you think Nina will do next? Will she finally be caught, or will her secret stay hidden? Let us know your thoughts. Nina knew that her story is far from over. She knew that in order for her to escape this, she had to run away from the school. Quickly, she packed her bags and sneaked out of the hostel, ready to leave the school. As she walked out in the night, she heard a voice shout. "Nina! Is that you?" Nina's story is far from over. If you wish to see the rest of her story, consider liking this video and subscribing. It really helps out new channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications so that you will not miss part 2. Also comment your suggestions and your thoughts. Thanks for watching.